Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Seoul Therapy, the podcast. I'm your new host for today, Paloma, and I'm the founder of Seoul Therapy, and I'm joined with the usual host, Daytona and Daniel. Hi guys, say hi to you people.
Yeah,
hello,
hi guys.
hello.
All right, so I basically hijacked the entire podcast because there's so much to talk.
Well, you're the founder.
Sure, yeah.
I did hijack it because there's so much to talk about
No problem.
this week. So I just felt like, I'm going to jump in with you guys. But before we get to it, I've been reading all your messages online and a lot of you seems to love the podcast very much. But have you subscribed yet? So if you haven't done that, please go on your favorite streaming platform and subscribe to the podcast and also leave us a 5-star review on Apple. And we release a lot of content really on all our socials. So please go and follow us at Soul_Therapy. And let's get to the stories. So much has happened in the past few weeks. It's been crazy between between the artists signing to new labels. I'm talking about Swings going to P Nation, Doki going to the Last Kings, and JV going to Higher Music, and then the controversy between the MBA crew members. So more particularly Munchman and EK, and then the beef, apparently, that I know nothing about with Justhis and QM. So, just to kind of get this all started, let's talk about this new signees first and Swings going to P Nation, because that one is crazy. Like,
for real.
I didn't expect that at all. So for you guys who don't know what P Nation is, like what label it is. So it's size label. He started it, I think, last year, mainly with like K-pop artists. Yeah. You know, Jesse is a K-pop artist for me now. So Yana was in there as well. And Dawn was in there. And Crush, actually, when he left Amoeba Culture.
Yeah, he went to P Nation.
He's been adding a lot of artists recently. So he added Diak, Highs, Penomical, and the last signee is none other than Swings.
Yes.
What do you guys think about it?
Wow. Man, this came at a surprise, to be honest.
Yes.
Like, just wow. I mean, what could I say? First, Benzino going to Bana, and then Swings going to P Nation. Like, what? I mean, it was a mess.
It was a very unprecedented move. Like, he was a CEO of IMJ and We The Plug, and then he stepped down. Still is a part of IMJ and We The Plug, but he is also signing a contract with P Nation. So, the weird thing is, I don't know the details of this yet because it was never actually fully disclosed.
Yeah, they've said a couple of things. Like, I've read from Sai basically being like, well, I'm just managing him as an artist, but he's still going to take care of his labels, which I don't understand because he stepped down as a CEO. So I'm just like,
I think it's like, I think it's more of a managerial deal. Like, for foreign listeners, for y'all to, for international listeners of this podcast, to make sure you understand, You people probably know like Meek Mill, right?
Yep.
Yeah, he's the head of the Dream Chaser, like his own Dream Chasers label, and he's also under MMG by Rick Ross, right? But he's managed by Rock Nation.
Yeah.
So I think P Nation is doing what Rock Nation does for Meek Mill.
Oh, interesting.
I think that's the case. I'm not sure because as I just said earlier, nothing has been out like officially disclosed. But all of that in mind, like when Sai talked about like Swings taking care of IMJ and We The Plug, he's not officially like the CEO anymore. But I think people in that label still look up to him as some sort of a guru, I guess.
Big brother figure kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely a big brother figure. Like, so when it comes to like major decisions, making compilation albums, maybe, or just looking for executive like producers for their albums and stuff like that, they will still turn towards Swings. They will still look for advice, and I think that's what Sai was talking about.
Okay.
For sure.
Yeah.
That's I think. Yeah. I also think there was a lot of a negative perception around this situation because there's some people who are saying, "Yo, you're still managing this label, but you're still getting signed to another label. Like, that's not fair, and there's a lot of people kind of disliking that. But for me, I see it more as an opportunity, I would say.
People are disliking this?
Yeah,
I didn't see that. People were very surprised on my end of the things that I saw.
I think it was on YouTube or something. I mean, those comments that you see, I think people were kind of furious about that. So
that's very weird.
Yeah,
I'll just
I
go
don't
on
know.
and say, you weird people need to chill because this is not something that is like something to get angry about. Like, how
No, for
is
sure,
getting
for
a
sure.
contract something to be angry about? It's not like look, like anyone who follows me on IG knows that I'm very far from being a conservative person. I'm a very liberal, like more like a progressive person. You cannot blame P Nation as a corporation for this. Like,
For sure.
why? Like, they're not a charity like organization.
Yeah.
There's no need for Psy in whatsoever. There's no moral obligation for Psy whatsoever to have to sign, avoid signing established artists.
Mm-hmm.
Like this, the very fact that you're angry about this is something I really don't get. Like, why? There's no angle possible to say that.
Or I guess,
sure.
I guess
think for me, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah.
I guess what I was gonna say was maybe furious was a strong word. I take that back. I think it was more of just kind of like, huh? Like, really? Like, come on. But not in not in a furious way, but just kind of like, yo, come on, dude. Like that kind of tone.
I think it's more because people wanted him to like kind of take care of his artists because, for example, like
exactly.
them are not releasing any music. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, and he's jumping onto this contract with P Nation and stuff like that. I think, to be honest, for me, I think it's a great thing for him because Psy is doing really, really great with his artists at the moment.
For sure.
Like, he's had very successful comebacks. So I think for him, signing with P Nation is maybe like a step forward, like you mentioned earlier, meaning that he's doing so great with his artists like internationally, and he just wants to have that. And he kind of felt that it was a lot of pressure for him to just be under the label that is supposed to kind of give guidance to his own artists too. So for me, it's a great thing. And he also said he reached out to Psy himself because he was very, very depressed after Show Me the Money 9.
Oh, I wouldn't be surprised.
He didn't know Psy personally. Like basically, Gary Boy is close to Psy, so he just reached out to Gary Boy and asked him for Psy's number, and they met up, and then he just kind of came about. So I respect that. Sometimes he just said basically he can't handle his own career anymore. So I respect that.
And you know what I respect a lot about P Nation is the fact that they started off as like this K-pop label, like you mentioned, Paloma, and just I like how P Nation has been able to evolve into more of a diverse label.
Yeah.
So you got K-pop, and then you got some R&B in there, and now you got some full-on straight hip-hop. So in that regard, I highly respect Psy so much, and I used to listen to him as a kid. So him seeing as a big CEO of a very diverse label, I think P Nation is headed in the right direction.
Yeah, you've mentioned that I think in a previous podcast, Daytona, handling those labels a bit like the US because they sign all types of artists, and I think he's really, really doing that. Well, I think he's going to do great under the label, so let's see what he's got in store.
For sure.
Another big signee was Doki going to the Last Kings.
Wow.
That was a surprise.
It wasn't for me.
I mean, I knew like they were like close, but I never thought he would actually be signed.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Like, because when he like retired to the US or whatever you want to call it, he was hanging a lot with this guy called A2. So A2 is basically like I think he started The Last King with Tyga. So I was just like, I think that's going to be his move. Is like his next move because, leaving Illionaire at the time when he left Illionaire and stuff like that and went to the US, and I just felt like that's the kind of career that he wanted because he's said that in the past that he was sort of tired of Korea, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Like there was a lot of controversy surrounding Toki at the time, like regarding he was accused of not paying back his debts. Like exactly to be exactly like his parents were accused of not paying debts and stuff like that.
Mm,
That's a whole nother story for another day, but there was definitely enough reason for him to think that Korea is a shitty place and he wanted to leave because everyone was like, like it was a typical cancel culture shit.
mm,
But this was one of those instances where it's not really for him to blame because legally there was nothing binding and people were more obsessed with how he spoke, like during the controversy rather than the actual controversy itself.
Oh, what did he
true.
say?
Like, he says something like he had no reason to scam a person because he already spends more in a single meal than you people ever will and stuff like that. So people were like, you're not
Bars.
sensitive enough for poor people.
Wow.
Yeah, like Korea's a place like that. Like I'm like through this podcast, I've really badmouthed Korea a lot.
No, I think you're explaining it. You know, for people who don't know, I
Yeah.
think that's the reality of it.
But I'm not saying like I'm the ultimate authority when it comes to Korean culture and Korean society, but you have to realize that you are looking from the outside in while I was here, like basically since I was born. So there are different perspectives. And from what I have seen, being a celebrity in Korea is kind of way harsher being a celebrity in the Western Hemisphere. There's so many
sure.
regulations. There's so many like regulations that are not even legal, like in legal terms. There's so many taboos that you shouldn't do to the point where it seems really absurd. Like this is a country where weed and porn is illegal.
Mm,
Yeah.
This is not a liberal country whatsoever, which is kind of an irony considering that like most K-pop fans I've seen, most international K-pop fans are like K-pop because it is very uncontroversial. Like because the music is very politically safe.
yeah.
But that is exactly why K-pop is doing so well on the charts.
Yeah.
For
Yeah,
sure.
because people do not want to face controversy here. People do not expect that kind of material from pop culture. Like here, pop culture is rarely anything more than entertainment. Like there's no Kendrick Lamar's, there's no
Yeah.
there's no Prince's. Like that would be impossible in Korea. There are a few instances back in the maybe the 90s or the 2000s, but that kind of movement is done here. And yeah, so considering all that, it is kind of logical for Toki to leave because I wouldn't want to be here either, you know?
I hear you.
If you had
I
the
hear
money
ya.
and you had the skills and you had enough, you already raked enough dough from Korea, there's no reason to stay here.
For
Sure.
sure.
Yeah, so yeah.
For me, I guess instead of being fully surprised, I'd say I was half and half, but at the same time, a bit concerning just because, you know, when you become influenced by the American hip hop culture, you're kind of going in with predictability that you know the type of music you're going to make in terms of like
Yeah.
the sounds.
Yeah.
You know, people are going to be, oh, this sounds too repetitive. Oh, this, you know, this is just another, like
Run of the
Future
mill.
or something like
Yeah.
Migos type stuff.
I was
So,
gonna say.
so there's a little bit of concern from me, but knowing Toki and his past songs, I'd say I kind of put that off to a side for a bit, but you're in a label with Tyga and you know the type of music Tyga makes.
Rack City, bitch. Rack
Yeah.
City,
Oh
bitch.
man.
Rack
So
City, Rack City.
I'm skeptical as fuck. If I
Mustard on the video. Like,
yeah, but I do know I did see a video of Double K and Toki in the studio. So
they were
who
grinding
knows?
their ass off.
Who knows? They might surprise us, or again, it might just be another recycled stuff. So,
do you
but
think
at the
it's
end of the
gonna
day, I'm
work?
excited.
Do you think it's gonna work? Because for me, I'm like, I understand and respect the move,
Mhm.
definitely. And he's a very skilled rapper and all of that. Like, there's no denying it.
For sure.
But for me, if you're moving into like a new country, especially when there's so many talented rappers and they all have something unique to bring, for
Exactly.
me, and obviously with like all of them, we have not seen a case of like a Asian rapper really making it big
never.
in the US
Exactly.
yet. And if you're gonna go and then sound like American and not actually bring your own flavor, like a very unique flavor to your music, I think that's not gonna work. Like, they're just gonna be like, oh, that's another Asian rapper kind of thing.
Exactly.
You see what I mean? So that's what I'm scared of, kind of skeptical about.
First of all, he dropped that new video, right?
Culture, yeah.
Yeah.
I was kind of relieved because I thought he would be going for like a completely different direction than he did, making it as commercial as possible. I'm not saying that like that track was something like super underground but it was like way better than I expected. Like,
Yeah.
and he has some IG snaps on his studio sessions, and he's not looking to make like generic track music, which is a good sign. And considering what you just said, Paloma, I share your same concerns. Like, Last Kings is not exactly a label that I'm very fond of. I'm not a big fan of Tyga's music in the first place. But if you consider what kind of music Toki was making, like, it kind of makes sense, you know?
Yeah.
Like, Tyga is at least rhyming on his records, you know? He's not, like, auto-tuning bullshit through, like, he's not a rapper that, like, riffs on auto-tune and bullshits the beat. Like, he at least rhymes.
True.
The problem is those rhymes are not very good, but he's at least rhyming. And there are lots of musical, like, common ground between Toki's music and Tyga's. And, like, the thing is, as you just said, Paloma, he's not exactly unique compared to the American sound.
For sure.
I think he has to make it up with his lyrical content. Not saying that he has to be like completely do a 180 and start rapping like Kendrick Lamar or J. Cole. All I'm saying is like he could at least use more Asian slang in his music, I guess.
Yeah, I was gonna say that because when I heard Culture, for example, it was all English, I think.
Yeah.
And then he came into the Korean for a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, really little, but like he needs to do a little bit more of that, in my opinion. Like, not using Korean, but maybe using Korean cultural terms. Like J-Park did that with Soju. Like he needs to do more of that. He needs to do anything that will make him stand out.
Exactly.
Yeah, and what is a better way to do that than to embrace your Asian heritage?
For sure, but I think it was kind of like, for me, he kind of just wants to be a rapper. You see what I mean? He doesn't want the baggage of being an Asian rapper to come along with his music kind of stuff. But I feel like that's a shame because he should definitely be using that because that's what makes him unique.
True.
So, yeah, that's just my opinion.
I think he needs to balance it. Like, he doesn't, like, for example, there's this rapper called China Mac, right?
Yeah.
I look at China Mac and it's like, I might catch a little flag for saying this.
Always.
And being an Asian myself, of course, like, it's almost like, that guy's too Asian. like the way he pronounces his words and the way he flows on the beat is not exactly what you... There's a huge difference with how state rappers, like the rappers in the States do. And embracing too much of your heritage might become a problem because it alienates you from commercial value.
Okay.
So what I'm expecting from Toki is, because he was not exactly a rapper that, even in Korea, when he was rapping his ass off here, he wasn't exactly like the Korean rapper, like the Korean rapper. He was like the Korean rapper that does some of the mainstream stuff that's going in the States, and that's what made him hot.
Yeah.
So Toki's identity is more about balancing Western and Eastern values in his music rather than just going flat out Eastern. So
Yeah.
From what I heard from Culture, I think that track a little bit more than that, but not too much, I guess. Because at the end of the day, I just want to see him do some, like, really get the bag, like really have a career in the States. And after you have a career in the States, then you can embrace more of your Asian heritage and people will be more open to it. And I don't know, it's just, I really wanted to do good.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
I really want him to do good because then it means that it opens doors for other
Exactly.
there. Yeah, I really, really want him to do good. That's why I respect the move, although I'm very skeptical about it.
Yeah.
Just because, it kind of opens up the door for
the game is kind of stacked against him, but who knows? Like, he has been known for, like, coming through against all sorts of odds always. So
let's see what he comes up with.
I believe in Gonzo.
All right, another signee, another K-pop artist, going on to a J-Park's label. So JB from GOT7, also known as Death from Offshore. Basically, I don't know if you guys know a bit about what it does and that kind of stuff, or I can explain because I'm a bit familiar with his work. So he basically is like the leader of GOT7, and he's been in the underground kind of K-R&B scene, underground scene, a lot. Like he's collaborated with like Jibanov and like all these producers and all of that. So he also has a crew called Offshore. So it's basically a crew of like R&B musicians and artists. And within GOT7, he had a subunit called Justhis, where basically it was just like they released an EP with Yugium actually. And they released like a really like R&B EP that I really, really like personally. So I think him going to Higher makes a lot of sense. Just because, he's been dabbling into the underground scene for like the past 4 years and releasing songs on SoundCloud and all of that. And he's a producer as well, so that makes sense for me. What do you guys think?
I really like the move. I mean, it was bound to happen anyways. And I think J Park's making big moves, which I really like. I really like the fact that his label especially is going diverse as well, just like what P Nation's doing. But I do think J Park has like a specific condition with it, maybe, in terms of who he wants to bring in. So I highly respect that. But man, JB, he's gonna be a force, in the especially in the Korean R&B scene, I would say, you know, with the latest song that he dropped with Soko
He's really
Domo.
respected, actually.
Yeah,
No,
I think he is.
I wouldn't be surprised. His vocals is very, I'd say it's unique. He has an unconventional voice that I really like. And him joining J Park, it just made total sense. I think with the people that he's surrounded with the producers that he's surrounded with, I think a lot of amazing projects are yet to be, dropped. But I'm just super excited for him. I'm excited that, a lot of the artists that he signed are from JYP.
Exactly. I was trying to talk about that.
So,
I love the fuck you energy.
I was trying to talk about this. J Park's revenge.
there's
J Park's revenge.
10 years after, that's amazing.
there is
I'm
that.
going to take all your motherfuckers and make great motherfuckers of myself. Like, god damn it, he's taking everyone.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of freedom and creativity for JB at Higher Music. So I'm just super happy for him. So shout out, yeah.
Like, the timing of this was impeccable. Like, JYP is catching a lot of flack these days because his new song with ITZY was so fucking horrible. Oh yeah,
I've seen Corky Bake's thing.
You're not
I
going to
think he
censor
posted
me.
about it.
Oh, it's not my opinion either. Like, people are hating that song. The beat was trash.
Yikes.
Like, the title was trash. Even the title was trash. Like, it was so corny. The lyrics were corny. the flow was awkward. Maybe the
Yikes.
melody was fine, but it was just passable. And
Yikes.
people were like shitting on that song so much, like it's almost like the second coming of, Rain's Gang single.
Ooh.
Yeah, people are hating it. Like even ITZY fans are not shielding this. Like even the ITZY fans are like, man, JYP, what were you thinking? Just stick to making retro beats. You are not going to do well. Like you're not Bang Hyo. Like you don't have any like enough experience with contemporary hip hop production. Like all
Facts.
sorts of bullshit was going through. And the problem is they are right. They are really right. Like that is a beat that would come out in like the late 2000s. Like you would hear this on like a Jeezy B cut or something. And with all of that in mind, with JYP catching flack and J Park keeps scoring on former JYP artists,
That helps.
I mean, it's probably coincidental. You know what? It might not be, it might be, because I'm not going to like say it's certain for anything because we never know in the end of the day. But the timing of this was just so impeccable. It was such a masterful move from J Park. Like, because JYP is catching so much flack, it means that there's going to be scrutiny and more eyes on the like any JYP and affiliated artists, right? And so in a sense, getting JB into a higher music, it was AOMG or High Music.
Higher music.
High music.
Yeah, higher music. It's basically going to like, it's promo on its own. You don't have to like put out more like marketing schemes. It's just marketable that like this is like automated clout, because of all the shit that's going on with JYP right now. And it was such a great move. I'm not qualified enough to talk about JB's music because I'm not familiar with the GOT7 catalog. But the single was great. From what I just heard from the single, if this was what JB always wanted to do, keep doing it. Like the song was great. Enough like he got enough like attention too. He got enough attention. The timing was great. It's another win. It's another W.
He seems more happy.
Yeah, for sure.
There was a small controversy though regarding
Yeah,
JB.
I saw that.
Because he had a naked picture of a woman in his IG live. Yeah, you get what I told you about like early in this session, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, goddamn, it's his room. It's
Yeah, and
his
then first
room.
of all,
Why
it's
do people
actually
give so much fuck about like? Oh man.
it wasn't even like nudes or anything. It was like I think picture that an artist took. So it was like an exhibition, a picture from an exhibition that kind of gives him inspiration when he's writing his songs. And I was like, have you heard Switch It Up? It's not for 13-year-olds. Like
Yeah.
the man is 27. Like what are you doing? Literally.
Yeah, you see the paradox. You mean like paradox of like. This is, if I was JB, this is exactly why I would want to get out of a K-pop group. Like, this is a great opportunity.
Company.
Huh?
You mean company?
Just out of the K-pop industry in general.
Okay.
Like, switching to a R&B platform and a hip-hop platform is way more forgiving morally. Like, if you consider this as morally problematic in the first place. You know what I mean? Like, there's all sorts of shit that you shouldn't do as a K-pop idol. Like, you're not allowed to have those pictures. Like, the fans will hate you for it. But not international fans. I'm not speaking about the international fans here. I'm speaking about the domestic fans. It's just liberation in a sense. And if you earn significantly less but still enough to have a career and you're free to do whatever you want, wouldn't you take the second option of going to the hip-hop industry rather than staying in the K-pop industry?
Absolutely.
Sure.
I can't take it.
Exactly. Like, it's a great move for both J Park and JB. Like, this is kind of like the last problems he will have. Because
for sure.
He's going to change his fan base. Like, he needs to transition out of that 13-year-old fan base. And this is a great opportunity to do that.
Yeah, for sure. And I like the response of Higher with regards to the controversy because they didn't really apologize for him having those pictures. They were just like, actually, we apologize that 13-year-old girls or whatever saw that, but actually we don't apologize that he had those pictures because
Exactly.
what the fuck?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And if it was any
Exactly.
like other K-pop entertainment company, they would have just thrown him under the bus and like, hey,
Yeah.
take a break or something like that. So
Yeah.
I really like the fact that they're basically supporting their artists in whatever, thing that they do, which is basically what he wanted. So that's what he got. Although I'm a bit skeptical again with the higher thingy because it's very much a rapper's label kind of thing. You see what I mean? And all their artists that were like R&B, I'm talking about J Soul and then Mokyo that was a bit more alternative. They didn't really flourish under the label, like they didn't stay for a long time. So like I'm like, this could be a new start for them to actually build their R&B sort of wing of higher. Because they're gonna have an artist that's gonna be so successful. So definitely like make that up.
Yeah. They also like I know like a lot of people, not a lot, some people disagree on this, but I basically look at Higher and AOMG as similar entities. Like Indigo Music is like Just Music and stuff like that. And considering they are like they also have R&B singers like Hoodie and Lehigh on the label as well. Like they're really trying to expand beyond hip hop.
Yeah.
And I think this signing JB is like a part of that. I think G-Soul was also JYP, but
yeah, it was.
G-Soul was a bit puzzling for me because he changed his name and then he changed it back again, and then he changed it and he changed it back again, and he was signed and did one compilation album and just decided to go out again. So I don't.
He had a small EP actually.
Yeah, I think that was. Like, I'm not saying it was controversial or anything, but I think it was more of a personal problems rather than like Jay Park's failure in marketing or anything. So I think I really want to see what Jay Park does with this R&B roster right here. So
yeah, for sure. I'm excited about that just to see if he's going to be signing more artists like that are more R&B than actual rappers. Just to kind of build that wing of that label because AMG is doing great with like R&B artists, and I just want to kind of see the same with Higher. So yeah, unless you guys have something more to say about this, but here we are about the signees.
Congrats to
next,
JB.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I'm very happy for him because I've sort of seen the past year how the kind of path they've all taken. So yeah, very, very exciting to see. So Justhis and QM have been beefing. I have no idea because
I had no idea about this.
It didn't pop up in the international fan bases. Like I have not seen anybody talk about it. But you said, Minyoung, that they have been beefing. I will let you give the guys a context about the beef between VMC and Justhis. I think it started in 2018, was it?
Yeah. To be blunt, like the VMC and Justhis beef was like the World War II of Korean hip hop.
Wow.
You know what? Let me get rid of that. World War II was the control beef back in this stuff.
Yeah.
More accurate would be like this was the Vietnam War of Korean hip hop. Basically, like in Korean hip hop, there had been. Like, it's not that much of an issue these days, I guess. But back in the days, especially around the time, around 2015, there has been a huge, there's this always controversy regarding which rapper goes onto TV and sells out. Like, if you go on TV, you're a sellout. If you make love songs, you're a sellout. Like, if you make pop songs, you're a fucking sellout. Like, that was a very huge, like, disparity between hip-hop circles. You know what I mean? And D-Flow was one of the people who was like really adamant. Like he was the super underground dude. Like fuck these all. Like he was one of the guys that said like fuck all these commercial rappers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a lot of people looked up to D-Flow for that.
Yeah.
Justhis was one of those kids, even before he became a rapper. Problem is, once Justhis became a similar entity in Korean hip hop where he was like, fuck all these commercial rappers, like this is real hip hop shit, you know what I mean? But the problem was D-Flow kind of changed. Some people view it as a betrayal of the culture. Some people was like, that's just natural progression. But D-Flow started going on TV and people kind of hated him for it. Like, people viewed him as a hypocrite. Like, you were the poster child of being the super underground, fuck the commercial stuff, and then you go out on TV, like, what the fuck are you doing? There has always been that sentiment in the underground. And Justhis kind of actually made that into a beef. Like, he made a 9-minute diss track against D-Flow for selling out.
I remember that.
To say, did it not start with Don Malik?
So Justhis and Don Malik are the same type of dudes, you know? And Don Malik was the first to diss D-Flow about that. And, like, telling D-Flow, like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you going on TV and still saying that you're underground when you made a career by dissing commercialized rappers? Like, you're a hypocrite. That's what Don Malik was saying. And Don Malik and D-Flow had all these back and forth. And once that was happening, Justhis kind of stepped into the ring as well, because Justhis and Don Malik are very good friends. And they had the same stance. Justhis was like, like, Don Malik's right. You're a bitch. That's what he basically said to D-Flow. And D-Flow was like fighting multiple fronts at once. And even his VMC label mates, Nuxile and Don Mills, was involved with the beef as well. So it was like this whole debacle between the entire underground versus this major company. Not the entire underground, but, you know, the underground was really fractured. And that all of that happened, and D-Flow suffered a lot. Like, his diss tracks were fire as well, but, you know, most people viewed him as a hypocrite. Especially, like, with the last season of Show Me the Money 9, where Lil Boy was like, he mentally suffered from the ripples of the VMC beef, you know? Yeah. That made D-Flow look very bad. Like, he's like the villain of the rap game right now, you know? He's like Pusha T. You get what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
But it turns out Pusha T sells out as well, and some other rappers diss Pusha T as well, you know? To make a comparison for your people to understand, Pusha T dissed Drake, right?
Yep.
Drake for being pop and for being a deadbeat dad, right? And in this case, it's like Pusha T turned out to be the same guy as Drake. And people got pissed about that. So all in all, like, it was this very messy beef about going on TV is selling out. No, it's not. Then why did you diss them in the first, like, diss people who were commercialized in the first place? Blah, 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 blah. It was a whole mess. And all of this kind of died as time passed. And then Justhis went on TV as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
The betrayal.
It's like, yeah, it's like the person who dissed the hypocrite became a hypocrite as well. Like, there's some technical differences here, because, like, Justhis is saying that I was not exactly saying that commercializing is wrong. It's more like how you're commercialized and stuff like that. But people are like, really, motherfucker? Like, and some people are like, he's right, and blah, 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 again. But QM is one of those rappers that is in VMC. And he's a person that still thinks that, like, he's still someone who has that underground mentality. So it's dissing Justhis because you're being the hypocrite when you dissed the hypocrite back in the days. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
You get the picture now, right? So it's this is like an odyssey of hypocrisy and hypocrisy and hypocrisy going down again and again and again. And this is like the next cycle.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, and QM is like, you became the same person as D-Flow. And QM is basically like, at least me being in VMC and me still looking at D-Flow as an OG, like, QM is basically saying, like, well, at least D-Flow owned to the fact that he betrayed, like, he was a hypocrite. He's basically saying, but you are not even admitting that you became one. And it seems like the Korean hip-hop community is on QM's side. they're saying like, yeah, Justhis has no say in this. Like, not the technical stuff, not like diss tracks itself, but more about when it comes to stance and when it comes to moral like moral implications. Like they're saying Justhis really kind of has nothing to say against QM.
No, I've got problems with him recently, so the man said the N-word and he hasn't addressed that, so I am waiting for Justhis to do it.
I don't think he will.
Because yeah, but that's just one of the things where you think like these rappers know better than saying that word.
Yeah,
because
of course.
The way that I think about Justhis is that he speaks English, first of all. And all of the rappers that you look up to are very like, you know, we were talking about that the other day, I think.
Yeah.
With you. So
yeah.
I'm just like, I'm very, very disappointed that he wouldn't at least address it. I mean, it was from a couple of years ago, and he should still address it.
For sure, for
I'm
sure.
just like, I've got problems. I've got problems with him right now. So I'm just like, I'm waiting, but I'm gonna wait for a long time because you said he's not going to address it, which is very much a shame.
The only time like celebrities have any motive to address things is if their market is going to be affected by it.
Yep.
True.
And frankly, Koreans don't know about this. They have no reason to know about this either because that word was said in like some mixtape really back in the days, right? Yeah, so like people don't have knowledge about this. It's not going to affect his sales. It's not like, so it's like,
It's like a couple international fans just saying that and blah blah.
yeah,
blah.
but there are not many international fans of Justhis either, right? So
no, it's just like
what you people like need to realize, people who are listening to this podcast and everyone, just in not just Korean hip hop in general, but it has been a long time since I idolized any kind of artist. I just see them as producers and I'm the consumer. You know? It's disappointing, but I've been disappointed so many times before. So it's like,
I don't want to become numb to this stuff, you know?
Huh?
For sure.
I don't want to become numb to this stuff. Like, you know, just like,
I really want.
You know, I've been through worse kind of thing. I feel like then it just kind of gives them room to fuck up a bit more.
Yeah.
But it's really, really hard to also like care because you're so used to it kind of thing.
There's so much shit that we have to care about, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that is very true.
Like, I'm tired of this shit. There's so many, like, I get it in a sense because making art requires some sort of ego. A person with no ego does not make great art. I think, and sometimes, like, check yourself, man. Seriously. Like,
like what I've always been saying.
Yeah, like, I don't think anyone wants to end up like Kanye.
Oh,
like,
for sure.
No.
Look at the dude. Dude is miserable right now. And that is a result of his ego. I don't care what nobody says. He's going through that shit because of his ego. And it's not his surrounding problems. He had a great wife. I know people are going to shit on Kardashian, but I don't care. She was a great wife for Kanye. She really was. And she did everything she could from what I know. I mean, all of the other stuff about not being a wife and being a model and all of the celebrity stuff, that's controversial. But as a wife, she did practically everything she could do for Kanye West, and still Kanye fucked it up because of his ego. And that is the problem, because people think that shit is cool. People look at Kanye as not as a musical genius, but an actual genius, which is a problem. He's not supposed to be the inspiration for you people artists. He's living miserably. He's hurting people all the time.
Yeah.
Why are people looking at that tortured artist, tortured artist kind of persona and thinking that shit is cool? It's not. The point about Kanye, like, I know this is a Korean hip-hop podcast, but I'm saying this because it matters. Basically, if you're hurting someone else, that shit is not cool.
Of course.
No.
You look at Kanye and say that he makes great music. Just because he makes great music doesn't mean he's a great person. And apparently, Like, people think that is really cool. People look up to that shit. I don't understand that. Like, consume the art and separate the art from the artist and say that you need to have the balls to say that art was great, but that artist was a shitty ass person. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, stop feeding into that shit because artists will take cue of that. And because it will sell, they will do the same shit.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Fans are very forgiving. For
Yeah,
no
don't
reason.
make a good example of this. Stop that shit. Like, fuck you. Like, why are we giving excuses to people for hurting someone else? This is unacceptable. This is always a balance issue because Korea is kind of different. Like, Americans are too forgiving. Koreans are way less forgiving. Like, find a fucking middle ground. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Seriously. Like, if Koreans, like, delving a little bit off to the sidetrack, if Koreans were, like, 1/10 more unforgiving of politicians than they are of celebrities, this would have been a way greater country to live in. And, like, in the case of America, it's vice versa. Like, goddamn, people, find a fucking balance, is what I'm saying. I'm tired of this shit. Like, as a person who's both through Seoul Therapy, like, in an international platform, and through Hip Hop Play on a domestic platform, it's like I'm saying bullshit on both sides every fucking day. Like, I'm getting tired of this shit, man. Like,
Yeah, I see. You get the best of both worlds.
the best? The worst of
the
both
worst?
worlds. I'm getting the worst of both worlds. And it's really frustrating.
It kind of lead us to our next story, actually, to the next point of, like, people hurting each other and, like, ego. So I need to give you guys a disclaimer for this one. So this part of the podcast might contain details of assault and drug abuse, so that if you don't want to listen and if you feel like you're sensitive to the subject, just skip to the next part where we tell you about the songs that we've been listening to. So yeah, Munchman, EK, MBA controversy. So if you want more in-depth story about exactly what happened, you can go and watch the update from the past 2 weeks, and then you'll get to know. But basically, just kind of give a bit of a rundown through the story is that Munchman accused EK of assaulting him and kind of just like make him do things that he didn't want to do within MBA crew. So MBA is basically a crew of rappers and dancers, and they've been on the come up a bit, especially from EK being a contestant on Show Me the Money 7, and then Munchman being in the biggest K-hip-hop track of last year, VVS, and he was on Show Me the Money 9. But yeah, so basically that's the gist of it. And what happened after that is posted a lot of different stories, like of the chart shit on his Instagram, even calling out B3, tagging Palo Alto, and all, like, it was a mess.
Yeah.
Saying the N-word left and right and stuff like that. It was truly, truly a mess. And obviously, by the looks of his Instagram story, you could see that it was under, you know, some substance. I don't know what it is, if it was under antidepressants and stuff like that. But what happened at the back of that is that some fans called the police to his house, and basically they came and they found him, so that he wasn't actually able to speak or anything. So he's being investigated now. My thing is that it's one of the things that I'm always on the side of the victim with regards to these stories, you know, and I very much empathize with, you know, the victim, and mental health is a thing. Like, it is a thing. It's very, very real. But what I don't empathize with, we're going to go back to the N-word again and then just saying off the chart shit, is that people using their mental issues to say the craziest things. I don't empathize with that shit. So I'm just like, I'm fencing here in this story. I'm like...
well, fencing is the best method to deal with this stuff. First of all, being a huge fan of, like, metal, black metal, goth stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm familiar with satanic imagery a lot of the times.
Yep.
And even for a person like me, MBA Munchman's IG stories were what the fuck kind of level of satanism. Like it was so dark and demented and disturbed. It was like, what the fuck is happening with this guy? First of all, I'll just go out on a limb to say mental health is a serious issue.
For sure.
But that is not an excuse for you to act like a jackass.
Exactly. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah. And Munchman kind of acted like a jackass here. Because he... The accusations he made kind of don't make sense. He says that he wrote... his lyrics were written by someone else, and that he performed it because they forced him to.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make sense because he was not under any pressure to perform those songs. Like, logistically speaking, he was not contract bound yet.
Mm-hmm.
So there was no, like, method for MBA to actually have oppressed him to perform those lyrics.
Yeah.
And that's where it doesn't make sense, you know? And then there's this whole issue about he shouted out some MBA members and he dissed some other MBA members. But the problem is the MBA members he endorsed actually said you're full of shit. So the more this progressed until the point of his arrest, it seemed very bad for Munchman because all of the signs were pointing that this guy's not right in his mental. Like, he's kind of wilding out. And this is now from here on, this is a personal kind of speculation. When he dissed Be Free, I thought Be Free would be like going crazy again.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a guy that would like, nah, fuck you, man. I'm gonna beat you up kind of guy. I'm not saying that's a good thing. That's just who he is. That's how he's going to act if he gets dissed. But when Munchman dissed Be Free turned on his IG live and said, you know what, go and help Munchman. He's going through some shit. Like, he's sick right now. Be Free is not the type of person to say that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The very fact that the rap game's biggest villain goes on to say and actually say that support him, like really heartfelt, like saying that he needs help. All of the signs are pointing that Munchman is sick. I'm not saying necessarily that Munchman is being an asshole. I mean, he did some jackass stuff in this incident, but I think he is genuinely disturbed.
Yeah.
I actually mentioned Kanye West before this podcast, in this session right here. His behavior is remarkably similar to Kanye West. You know what I mean? And there's this accusation of him bad-mouthing Mirani. Like,
no way. I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, there's this EK actually said on his IG live that he was like basically dissing everyone that was on Show Me the Money 9 behind their back when he was with like the NBA crew and stuff like that. So I think I don't want to blame Munchman because I think he's really going through some shit.
Yeah.
One thing that international fans need to know is that he didn't get caught for illegal drugs. He got arrested not because of illegal drugs. He got arrested because he overdosed on drugs that he was already prescribed.
Yeah.
So he was already going through mental therapy. So, like, even everyone else in the NBA crew is like, you know what? He's sick. Leave him the fuck alone. Like, don't hate on, like, my conclusion from this is don't hate too much on Munchman. Like, he's sick. And not sick in the sense that he's a sick person, but like he's really like he's a patient. He's a patient right now. And I wouldn't trust a lot of the things Munchman said around NBA, not because Munchman is a liar, but it kind of logistically does not make sense. So, it's a very, like you said, Paloma, this is a very fencing kind of issue because in these kind of incidents, it's very important that the victim gets the first platform.
Yeah.
But the case is kind of already done now. Like this beef has been brewing for a while and it's kind of dead now. And it's a point in time where we can look at this in a retrospective sense. Like the K-pop community already gave Munchman his first platform when this erupted, when this case was first erupted. And yeah, I mean, we gave him a voice. The K-pop community was like very sympathetic toward Munchman, but as the case progressed, it's kind of being proven that, you know, it was more of his psychotic episodes rather than actual mishappenings. So, yeah, in this case, don't hate on either sides. That's the message I want to get across. Like, mental health is a real thing, people, and it's not exactly
just a public breakdown.
Yeah, you don't know what going through mental episodes are unless you have gone through one yourself. So don't shit on people too much. Seriously. This is what I just talked about. Like, find the middle ground. Like, there are some instances, believe it or not, that are actually complicated and where you are like, both sides are at fault and both sides are not exactly guilty all the time. So when it comes to this MBA incident, don't hate too much on either side. Just kind of let it go. Like, just look at it how it plays out. Because from what I gather, after Munchman is like back in shape, I can see him getting admitted back into MBA again.
You reckon?
Yeah.
Because for now, the CEO of Stoneship said he wasn't contracted with them, I think, anymore.
Yeah. So, like, yeah, exactly. Like, they have no ties with each other now, so let them, like, regroup in their respective spaces. So, yeah.
And sort it out, I guess.
Sort it out. You cannot sort it out for them, right? We cannot sort it out for them. This is not, like, taking sides won't help. Like, our sides really don't matter in this kind of issue. So, just let them do their own thing, please.
I do agree with that. Well, as we now come to the end of the episode, we've got some bangers for you to put on your playlist if it's dry.
Yes.
I mean, what have you guys been listening to recently?
For me, again, like I said, as a huge fan of the music, I've just been listening to random stuff, whatever's on the playlist. But I came down to the song called Keep Right, which is by The Quiet, and it features a really legendary producer by the name of Loptimus, and it features him, and it's produced by Loptimus, and this came off of The Quiet's album, The Real Me, in 2007. Yeah. And I had to pick this just because it's straight hip-hop, you know, it takes you back to the old days, you know, and this is when he was, or they were both in Soul Company, so...
Yeah, I think so too.
So... all I can just say with this song was it's straight off kind of like an anthem, like a Korean hip hop anthem. I would say, and it's such a underrated song, and of course it's not that well known anymore, right? Because it's such an old song. But I wanted to bring a song that'll take people back on the kind of like the underground scene, I would say, and where it kind of all started and where it all began. So yeah, the lyrics are great, very deep. It's kind of like a motivational song. So definitely go check out The Quiet, Keep Right featuring Loptimist.
Yeah,
you guys need to make a playlist of like hip hop anthems.
Oh sure, why not?
for the people. Yeah, you guys should make that.
Of course,
for sure.
Definitely.
Go ahead.
I'm kind of torn between two songs, but I guess I will go one with the more recent one since Dan offered us a classic. Sokodome has a new EP out.
Yes.
I reviewed this also. This was mind blowing. Like, this was mind expanding music. Like, there's so many genres incorporated together, and like the lyrics are very representative of Korean society as well. Like,
Yeah.
it was this rare occasion of experimental music having a pop sensibility. Like, the melody is great, and having lyrics that are not overly like complex but still very potent.
Mm.
It's a song called MM,
Yes. It's a
featuring
great song.
our beloved Jay Park. MM stands for Murder Mind. Like, it's basically about like a person going a bit crazy and paranoid because of like constant labor. You know what I mean? And like the melody is like influenced by hyperpop a little, I think. It's really poppy. But the production is experimental, the melody's poppy, so it's like everything you want from a song in like jammed into like 3 minutes. So yeah, check this out. This was one of the most mind-bending genre experimentation that I have seen in Korean hip-hop for a while.
I really
check
liked
it
it.
Yeah, the music video is great too.
Yeah.
Yeah, the music video is so striking. I was like, it's amazing. I feel like in terms of the way that Sokodomo experiments, he reminds me a lot of like this guy from Brockhampton called Merlin.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
in terms
I
of
can
like
definitely see the
tone and
parallel.
sound. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
It
Like-
really, really reminds me of him.
Yeah, I like Brockhampton in general has that tendency to like fuse different all sorts of shit together and make it into cohesive, like catchy music, right?
Yep.
Sokodomo does that. Like, this is catchy. Like, this actually makes you a head bob. Like, oh, this has a pop kind of appeal with being that experimental. Like, so yeah, perfect example of like fusing like the artsy side and the commercial side together and making it into something amazing. So check it out. Like, definitely check it out. All sorts of genre influences on this. Great song. Great EP. Great rapper. Hope you come on the podcast sometime.
Well,
Like,
let's see.
seriously,
Throw it out there. Hey, Sokodomo, we want you.
I really want an interview with Sokodomo. I really want to see like how his creative mind operates. Like,
Yeah.
it was mind blowing.
That'd be great content.
Yeah.
For that. For me, I've got 2 EPs. It's a bit much, but I kind of want to see the R&B scene in Korea grow.
Yeah.
And it's not actually a scene yet. You know, it's quite a new genre there. There is a bunch of like amazing artists, and I really, really want to sort of support that with Seoul Therapy. Definitely. And there is this artist called Jimmy Brown that I've been listening to religiously. He releases music all the time. But in April, in the span of 2 weeks, he released like 2 mini EPs, like a collaboration EPs. One with Sweet the Kid, which is kind of like a newcomer in the scene as well, and another one with a American artist, I think, Jay Ward. So basically, these 2 EPs are like 4 songs each, and they are just the most amazing trip into 4 songs that you can get. It's really like melodies are there, beats are there. I mean, it's quite simple beats, but it really work with their voice. I just think, he's one of them ones that needs to get more recognition because he is definitely helping building the scene over there. And I really want to see this artist start popping up and stuff. So the EPs are called Chérie. I'm going to say it in French because I'm French and I can, I can actually pronounce it. Chérie. Yeah, there you go. And then the other one is called The Good Days Boys. And just listen to them. Like, it's amazing. Like, I don't know bad songs, literally, like no bad songs. And it's only 4 songs. Yeah, go ahead and play them loud. So that's it for us guys today. So, thank you for tuning in, and please do subscribe to the podcast on the streaming platforms that you listen to your music. And follow us on socials at Seoul_Therapy. And we will see you next time. I mean, I don't know for me, but they will see you next time.
Yeah, we'll definitely be here. Yeah, we're not going anywhere, so.
Cool. Well, see you whenever, guys.
Peace.
Bye-bye.
Bye.